Jin walked into the large classroom 5 minutes early. He always did this to get his favorite seat at the back. Being the only human at Sunspire Academy sometimes made him feel like he was being watched. In the back row, at least he could watch others instead. The classroom filled up quickly. Today's xenobiology lecture was special. Professor Do Young had announced they would study human physiology. Jin noticed how other students kept glancing at him. Some looked curious, others seemed worried. He pretended not to notice. The door opened, and Professor Do Young walked in. He was tall, even for a Stellarian, with silvery skin that sparkled under the classroom's bright lights. He placed his teaching tablet on the desk and looked around the room. His eyes stopped for a moment when they reached Jin. Today, the professor began, his voice clear but tight. We will discuss one of the most interesting species in our galaxy, humans. He waved his hand, and a large 3D image of a human body appeared in the middle of the room. Humans, he continued, are from a planet called Earth. It is a death world with high gravity, extreme temperatures, and dangerous predators. He paused, letting that sink in. This environment has made them different from most species. Jin felt more eyes turned to him. He kept his face calm, but his hands tightened under his desk. He had heard this kind of talk before. A student raised her hand. It was Rena, known for asking hard questions. Her blue-tinted hair caught the light as she spoke. Professor, different how? Well, Do Young said, zooming in on the human muscle structure, their bodies are built for survival in ways that most species would find alarming. They can heal from injuries that would kill others. They can keep running even when exhausted. And their strength. He shook his head. A human can break bones without even trying. Jin wanted to speak up. These things were true, but the professor made them sound scary. Humans didn't go around breaking bones. They were careful, gentle even. But he stayed quiet, watching. Rhino wasn't satisfied. But Professor, isn't that just evolution? Every species adapts to their home world. Do Young's skin flickered slightly, a sign of irritation in Stellarians. Yes, but humans adapted to become perfect predators. Look at their eyes, both facing forward. Look at their teeth, made for meat. Look at their hands, made for weapons. The 3D image changed to show human hands. Jin looked at his own hands resting on the desk. They were also made for holding babies, for creating art, for helping others up when they fell. A quiet voice came from the middle of the room. It was Jinwoo, one of the senior students. I heard humans can keep fighting even when badly hurt. Is that true, Professor? Yes, Do Young said quickly. Their bodies produce chemicals that let them ignore pain. They call it adrenaline. In danger, they become even stronger, faster, more dangerous. Jin noticed Rhina looking at him again, but unlike the others, she seemed more curious than afraid. She was taking notes, but he could tell she was thinking hard about something. The professor continued his lecture, describing human internal organs, bones, and muscles. Everything he said was technically true, but the way he said it made humans sound like monsters. Jin thought about his little sister back on Earth, who cried when she saw a hurt bird. About his grandmother, who spent her life teaching children to read. About his father, who was a doctor. When class ended, students hurried out, many giving Jin a wide berth. He packed his bag slowly, thinking about how to handle this situation. As he stood up, he noticed Rhina waiting near the door, pretending to check her tablet. She smiled when he walked past. Hey, Jin, she said softly. I have some questions about today's lecture. Real questions, not the scary stories the professor was telling. Would you mind talking about it? Jin looked at her, surprised by her directness. Maybe this was a chance to show someone the truth about humans. Sure, he said, smiling back. What do you want to know? As they walked out together, Jin heard Professor Do Young muttering to himself in his office. He caught the words dangerous and unpredictable. He-Jin sighed quietly. He had a feeling this wouldn't be the last time he'd hear those words at the academy. The training room at Sunspire Academy was huge, with high ceilings and soft blue mats covering the floor. Today, 20 students gathered for their weekly safety and self-defense class. He-Jin stood near the back, trying not to draw attention to himself after yesterday's xenobiology lecture. Mei-Rei, the head of security, stood in front of the group. Her uniform was crisp and her expression serious. "Today, we'll practice emergency procedures," she announced. "You never know when artificial gravity might fail or when you'll need to help an injured classmate." The students split into pairs. He-Jin ended up alone until Mei-Rei paired him with a young Stellarian named Suho, who looked nervous but didn't object. "First exercise," Mei-Rei called out. "One partner will act unconscious. The other must move them to safety without causing harm. Remember, different species require different handling." Suho volunteered to play the unconscious person first. He lay down on the mat, trying not to show how tense he was about having a human touch him. He-Jin had done this drill before on Earth. He knew exactly how to help someone without hurting them. From across the room, Jin-Woo watched with narrowed eyes. After yesterday's lecture, he had warned others about having a human in their class. Now he waited for He-Jin to make a mistake. He-Jin carefully positioned himself beside Suho. "I'm going to lift you now," he said softly. "Just stay relaxed." He placed one arm under Suho's shoulders and the other under his knees, then lifted smoothly. That's when everything went wrong. The artificial gravity flickered, a real malfunction during a practice drill. Students stumbled as their weight shifted. Suho panicked and jerked in He-Jin's arms. Without thinking, He-Jin tightened his grip to keep Suho from falling and hurting himself. "The humans attacking him," someone shouted. "No," He-Jin said quickly, still holding Suho safely despite the changing gravity. "I'm just making sure he doesn't fall." Mei-Rei moved toward them fast, but she stopped when she saw what was really happening. While other students were struggling with the gravity changes, He-Jin had adjusted his stance. He was actually protecting Suho from injury. The gravity returned to normal. He-Jin gently set Suho down. The Stellarian student looked up at him with wide eyes, not scared anymore, but surprised. "Are you okay?" He-Jin asked. "Sorry if I held too tight. I just didn't want you to fall." Before Suho could answer, Jin-Woo stepped forward. "We all saw how strong you were just now," he said loudly. "Professor Du Young was right. Humans are dangerous. You could have broken his bones." But he didn't. Raina's voice came from the doorway. She had arrived for the next class and seen everything. He kept Suho safe when everyone else was stumbling around. Mei-Rei raised her hand for silence. "What I saw," she said clearly, "was exactly what this class is about." He-Jin responded correctly to an emergency. He protected his partner. That's what matters. But Jin-Woo wasn't finished. Did you see how fast he moved? How easily he lifted Suho? That's not normal. We shouldn't have to train with someone who could hurt us by accident. He-Jin felt his face get hot, but he kept his voice calm. "I trained for 3 years before coming here," he explained. "On Earth, we learn to be careful with our strength. We practice control every day." "It's true," Raina added, walking into the room. "I've been researching humans since yesterday. They spend years learning how to interact safely with other species. They're not careless." Suho finally spoke up. "I wasn't scared," he said quietly. "When the gravity went wrong, I panicked. But He-Jin, he made me feel safe." Mei-Rei nodded. "Class dismissed," she announced. "But I want everyone to think about what happened today. Sometimes our biggest fears come from not understanding each other." As students left the training room, He-Jin noticed Mei-Rei making notes on her tablet. She looked thoughtful, not worried. Raina waited for him by the door again, and this time Suho joined them. "Want to get lunch?" Raina asked them both. I have more questions about Earth training methods. He Jin smiled, feeling a little better. Maybe not everyone would believe Jin Woo's scary stories about humans. Maybe some people would look past their fear to see the truth. But as they walked to the dining hall, He Jin saw Jin Woo talking to a group of students, all of them glancing his way with worried looks. He sighed. One good moment didn't mean his challenges were over. There was still a long way to go. The Academy's archive room was quiet and cool. Rows of data stations lined the walls, their screens glowing softly in the dim light. He Jin and Raina sat at one of these stations, working on their xenobiology project. It had been 3 days since the training incident, and He Jin was glad to be somewhere peaceful. I don't understand, Raina said, frowning at her screen. Professor Du Young wants us to write about human aggressive tendencies, but all I'm finding are old warning notices. There must be more to the story. He Jin nodded. There is, but maybe we should look further back. Before all these warnings started, Raina typed quickly, her fingers dancing over the keyboard. Let's try the historical archives. 20 years ago. 30, 40. She stopped suddenly. Wait, look at this. The screen showed an old video file from 50 years ago. The title read, Great Cosmic Crisis, Emergency Response Records. I heard about this, He Jin said. It was before I was born. A huge solar storm damaged hundreds of space stations. Raina pressed play. The video showed a space station much like their academy, but it was in trouble. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Then something unexpected appeared, a human ship. Look at how small their ship is, Raina whispered. They weren't prepared for a rescue mission, but they came anyway. They watched as humans in old-style spacesuits helped evacuate the station. The humans worked tirelessly, carrying injured aliens twice their size, fixing damaged equipment with basic tools, and staying behind until everyone was safe. There's more, Raina said, finding another file. This one showed humans helping during a plague outbreak. They worked in dangerous areas because their immune systems were stronger. Another video showed humans diving into toxic water to repair underwater cities. I don't understand, Raina said. If humans helped so many people, why are there so many warnings about them now? He Jin thought about Professor Do Young's scared face during the lecture. Maybe some people only saw humans during emergencies. When we're trying to help in a crisis, we can seem intense, Raina suggested. Yeah, we focus completely on solving the problem. Sometimes that scares people who don't understand. They found more recent files. Most were like Professor Do Young's lecture, warnings about human strength and speed. But now they noticed something different about these warnings. Look, Raina pointed out. None of these newer files show actual incidents. They're all just theories about what humans might do. He Jin was about to respond when they heard footsteps. They turned to see Suho walking toward them, carrying his study tablet. Sorry, Suho said quietly. I heard you were here. After what happened in training, I wanted to learn more. He looked nervous but determined. Can I help with your research? Raina smiled and moved over to make room. Look what we found. Real videos of humans during the Great Cosmic Crisis. They showed Suho the rescue footage. His eyes got wider as he watched. They're not being aggressive at all, he said. They're just helping. Really hard. That's what humans do, He Jin explained. We're strong because our world is dangerous, but we use that strength to protect others. Suddenly, a new voice spoke. What are you all doing in here? They turned to see Jin Woo standing in the doorway. He had followed Suho. Research, Raina said firmly. Real research, not just scary stories. Want to see? Jin Woo hesitated. He looked at the screen, then at He Jin. Finally, his curiosity won. What did you find? As they showed him the videos, He Jin noticed Jin Woo's expression changing. The senior student wasn't fully convinced, but he was thinking hard about what he saw. We should show this to others, Rhina said. Maybe make it part of our project. Professor Du Young won't like it, Jin Woo warned, but he didn't sound as hostile as before. Maybe that's exactly why we need to show it, Suho said, surprising everyone with his boldness. People should know the whole truth, not just the scary parts. He-Jin felt hope growing inside him. Change wouldn't happen quickly, but with every person who saw the real story, things got a little better. As they continued watching the old videos, none of them noticed Mirai standing in the shadows near the door, watching everything with great interest. The day started normally at Sunspire Academy. Students walked to their classes, talked in the halls, and studied in the library. No one expected anything to go wrong. Jin sat in the academy's large dining hall with Rhina and Suho. They were eating lunch and planning how to present their research about humans. Suddenly, the lights turned red. A loud alarm began to sound. Warning. Security breach detected. Emergency lockdown starting in 5 minutes. All students returned to safe zones immediately. Everyone in the dining hall started talking at once. Some students ran for the doors. Others stood frozen, unsure what to do. Stay calm. Meirai's voice came over the speakers. This is not a drill. All students follow emergency procedures. He-Jin noticed something strange. The dining hall's main door was closing and opening randomly. Other electronic systems were acting weird too. The food dispensers started working by themselves, and the cleaning robots spun in circles. The computer system is malfunctioning, he said quietly to Rhina and Suho. This isn't just a security breach. Something's wrong with the whole network. Jinwoo, who was sitting nearby, heard him. How do you know that? I studied computer systems on Earth, He-Jin explained. This looks like a cascade failure, one problem causing more problems. The lights flickered. More students started to panic. We need to help, He-Jin said, standing up. His military training from Earth was kicking in. Rina, can you calm people down? Suho, check if anyone needs medical help. Jinwoo. He paused, not sure if the older student would listen to him. But Jinwoo nodded. What do you need? Help me get to the main control panel. We might be able to stop this from getting worse. They worked quickly. Rhina got students organized and sitting calmly. Suho found a younger student who had fallen and helped them up. Jinwoo and He-Jin made their way to the control panel near the kitchen. The whole system is confused, He-Jin said, looking at the panel. It thinks there are intruders everywhere, but there aren't any. That's why everything is shutting down. Can you fix it? Jinwoo asked. Not completely, but maybe. He-Jin's fingers moved fast over the controls. If we can't stop it, we can at least make it safer. He redirected power to keep the air systems working. He made sure the doors wouldn't close all the way, so no one would get trapped. He turned off the malfunctioning robots before they could hurt someone. Mirai arrived just as He-Jin finished. She looked at the control panel, then at him. The system is still broken, He-Jin explained quickly. But now it won't hurt anyone while you fix it. Mirai checked his work. This is impressive. You thought about everyone's safety first. That's what we're trained for on Earth. Help others, prevent panic, solve the problem. The red lights finally stopped. The main system was still down, but thanks to He-Jin's quick thinking, everyone was safe. Students started to relax. I think I understand now, Jinwoo said quietly. What we saw in those old videos, this is what they meant about humans helping really hard. Rhina came over with Suho. Everyone's okay, she reported. Some people were scared, but no one got hurt. Thanks to He-Jin, Suho added. He knew exactly what to do. Students around them were watching and listening. He-Jin heard them talking. Did you see how calm he was? He protected everyone. Maybe humans aren't so scary after all. Mirai put her hand on He-Jin's shoulder. Well done, but she looked serious. This kind of system failure shouldn't be possible. I need to investigate what really happened here. He-Jin nodded. He had wondered about that too. Why had all the systems failed at once? As he looked around the dining hall, he caught a glimpse of Professor Du Young watching from a doorway. The professor's face was hard to read. Things are changing, Raina said softly to He-Jin. People are starting to see the truth about humans. Maybe, He-Jin replied. But I have a feeling that this isn't over yet. As students began leaving the dining hall, He-Jin couldn't help wondering, was this security breach really an accident? Or was someone trying to prove a point about humans? He had a feeling they would find out soon. Mei sat in her office, studying security feeds from the day of the system failure. Something wasn't right. She played the videos again and again, looking for clues. A knock on her door made her look up. It was Rina. "Come in," Mei said. "I suppose you're here about the investigation." Rina nodded. "We found something in the archives, something about Professor Du Young. I think you need to see it." They walked together to the archive room, where He-Jin, Suho, and Jinwoo were waiting. The screen showed an old incident report from 15 years ago. "We were looking for more information about human rescue missions," Rina explained. "But we found this instead." The report described a space pirate attack on a small research station. Professor Du Young was there as a young scientist. The station was badly damaged. Then a human military ship arrived to help. "Look at this part," He-Jin said, pointing to the screen. He read aloud. Human soldiers entered the station. Their movements were fast and aggressive. They showed unusual strength and resistance to injury. They eliminated all threats without hesitation. "That's when Professor Du Young first met humans," Suho said quietly. "He only saw them fighting." Mei leaned closer to the screen. "There's more. Personal log entries." They read Du Young's words from that day. "The humans saved us, but they terrified me. They moved like predators. They broke down doors with their hands. They fought through injuries that would stop anyone else. How can we trust beings with such power?" "But that's not the whole story," Jinwoo said. He had found another file. "Look at the full mission report." The report showed that the human soldiers had rushed in because the pirates were about to destroy the station's air supply. They hurried because minutes meant lives. They fought hard because they had to protect the scientists. All this time, Rina said, he's been afraid because he didn't understand. He only saw the scary part, not the reason behind it. Suddenly, they heard footsteps. Professor Du Young himself stood in the doorway. His silver skin looked pale. "I wondered who was accessing these old files," he said softly. He looked tired. "I suppose you know everything now." "Professor," He-Jin said carefully, "those soldiers were doing their job. They were protecting you. I know that." Now, Du Young walked into the room. "But fear isn't always logical. What I saw that day changed me. I couldn't forget their strength, their speed. I started seeing danger everywhere." "Is that why you caused the security breach?" Mei asked quietly. Everyone turned to look at her, then at Du Young. The professor's skin flickered with emotion. "How did you know?" he whispered. "The system logs. Only someone with professor-level access could have caused that kind of failure. You wanted to prove humans were dangerous." "Yes." Du Young sat down heavily. I thought if everyone saw how powerful humans were, they would understand my warnings. But instead," he looked at He-Jin, "instead, you proved me wrong. You helped everyone. You stayed calm. You protected people. Just like those soldiers 15 years ago," Rina said. "They weren't being dangerous. They were being helpful." "I've been unfair," Du Young admitted. "To you, He-Jin, and to all humans. My fear made me see only one side of the story." Jinwoo spoke up. "I understood you, Professor. I was afraid too. But now I see that being strong doesn't mean being dangerous. It's how you use that strength that matters." He-Jin stood up. "Professor, would you like to learn about humans again? Not just the scary parts, but everything. We could help you understand." Do-young looked around at all of them, at He-jin's gentle offer, at Raina's encouraging smile, at Suho's hopeful face, at Jinwoo's understanding nod, and at Meirei's steady gaze. "Yes," he said finally. "Yes, I would like that." Meirei closed the incident report on her tablet. "I think we can handle this matter quietly," she said. "Sometimes the best security comes from understanding each other better." As they left the archive room together, He-jin felt something had changed. The truth hadn't just emerged, it had started to heal old wounds, but he knew there was still more work to do. Understanding took time, and trust had to be earned one day at a time. A week after the truth about Professor Do-young came out, the academy was still buzzing with talk. Some students had changed their minds about humans. Others weren't so sure. That's when Jinwoo had an idea. "A Stellarian challenge," He-jin asked during lunch. "What's that?" Jinwoo sat straight in his chair. "It's an old tradition from my people. 2 competitors face 3 tests: mind, body, and spirit. I want to challenge you, He-jin." The dining hall went quiet. Everyone watched them. "Why?" He-jin asked carefully. "Because people need to see," Jinwoo explained. "Not just hear about humans, but really see what you can do, both the strength and the control." Raina and Suho exchanged worried looks. Professor Do-young, who was nearby, moved closer to listen. "What kind of tests?" He-jin asked. "First, a puzzle challenge. Then a physical contest. Finally, a teamwork task." Jinwoo looked serious. "Will you accept?" He-jin thought for a moment. This could help people understand humans better, or make them more afraid. It all depended on how he handled it. "I accept," he said. The first test was held in the academy's puzzle room that afternoon. Students and teachers gathered to watch. The challenge: solve a complex 3D hologram puzzle while floating in zero gravity. "This tests both mind and balance," Jinwoo explained. "You have 10 minutes." They started. Jinwoo moved gracefully in zero gravity. Stellarians were naturally good at this, but He-jin stayed calm and thought carefully. Instead of rushing, he took time to understand the puzzle's pattern. "Time's up," Meirei called. Jinwoo had completed most of his puzzle, but He-jin had finished his entirely. "How?" Jinwoo asked. "On Earth, we learn to break big problems into small ones," He-jin explained. "I looked for the pattern first, then solved each piece step by step." The second test was physical. Climb the academy's emergency shaft using only hands and feet. No anti-gravity boots allowed. This would show human strength. "Remember," Jinwoo said, "it's not just about speed. It's about control." They began climbing. Jinwoo was fast and skilled, but everyone watched He-jin. They waited to see if he would use too much strength, if he would damage the handholds. Instead, He-jin climbed carefully. He tested each hold before using it. He moved steadily but gently. When he reached the top just after Jinwoo, the shaft was completely undamaged. "You could have gone faster," Jinwoo said. "Speed isn't always the point," He-jin replied. "Being careful is more important." The final test surprised everyone. Jinwoo pointed to the academy's broken garden dome. "We work together," he said. "Fix the garden. Show everyone what a human and a Stellarian can do as a team." They spent 2 hours repairing the dome's systems. Jinwoo knew the traditional methods, while He-jin suggested new ideas from Earth. When they disagreed, they talked it through. When they succeeded, they celebrated together. The garden dome worked better than before. Plants that had been struggling started to grow stronger. "The challenge is complete," Jinwoo announced to the watching crowd. He-jin showed us 3 things. A human's mind is not just for fighting. Their strength is not just for damage. And most importantly, humans know how to work with others, not against them. Professor Du Young stepped forward. "I've learned something too," he said. "We've been teaching about human abilities all wrong. We focus on what they could do to harm, not on what they actually do to help." Rhina smiled. Maybe that's what we all needed to see. Not just Hejin's abilities, but how he chooses to use them. "That's what Earth taught us," Hejin explained. "Having power means having responsibility. Being strong means being careful. Being different means learning to work together." As students began to leave, talking excitedly about what they'd seen, Mireille made notes on her tablet. The academy would need to update its teaching about humans. True security didn't come from fear, it came from understanding. "Good challenge," Hejin said to Jinwoo. "Good lesson," Jinwoo replied, offering his hand in the human way of greeting. They shook hands, and Hejin knew things at the academy would never be quite the same again. 2 days after the Stellarian Challenge, Rhina stood in front of the academy's main hall. She watched students and teachers file in, filling the seats. Her idea for a cultural exchange event had grown bigger than she expected. "Nervous?" Hejin asked, standing beside her. "A little," she admitted. "I've never organized anything this big before." The hall was decorated with images from different worlds: Earth, the Stellarian homeworld, and many others. Each section had foods, music, and stories from that culture. Professor Du Young had helped them set everything up. "Welcome, everyone," Rhina began when the hall was full. "Today isn't about what makes us different. It's about understanding each other better." She introduced the first speaker, a student from a water world who explained how their people learned to build cities under the ocean. Then came others, a crystal being who showed how their people communicated through light, a gravity world student who demonstrated their amazing balance skills. Finally, it was Hejin's turn. He walked to the front and took a deep breath. "Many of you have heard scary things about Earth," he started. "Yes, it's a world with high gravity, strong storms, and dangerous animals. But that's not the whole story." He showed pictures of Earth, not the usual ones of predators and natural disasters, but images of families having picnics, children playing in parks, doctors helping patients, and scientists working together. "Earth taught us to be strong," he explained, "but it also taught us to be kind. When storms come, we protect each other. When danger appears, we face it together. Every challenge made us better at helping others." He played a video of Earth's history, how humans fought each other in the past, but learned to work together, how they nearly destroyed their planet, but then worked hard to save it, how they reached out to the stars, not to conquer, but to learn and connect. "Humans aren't perfect," Hejin said. "We make mistakes. We can be too quick, too strong, too intense. But we learn. We adapt. We try to be better." Jinwoo stood up. "During the Stellarian Challenge, I saw this myself. Hejin could have shown off his strength. Instead, he showed us his care and control." Suho joined in. "In the training room, when the gravity failed, he protected me. That's what humans do. They use their abilities to help." Professor Du Young walked to the front. "I've taught about humans for years," he said, "but I only told half the story. I focused on their physical abilities and forgot about their hearts and minds." Rhina smiled as more students started sharing stories. Someone talked about how Hejin helped them with difficult homework. Another mentioned how he always offered to carry heavy things for smaller species. "This is what cultural exchange means," Rhina said. "Not just learning facts about each other, but understanding who we really are." The event continued with food sharing. Hejin had helped make simple Earth dishes that other species could eat safely. Students tried foods from different worlds, laughed at their reactions, and asked questions about everything. Mireille watched from the back of the hall, nodding with approval. She had seen the academy change over the past few weeks. Fear was being replaced by curiosity. Suspicion was turning into respect. "We should do this every year," Suho suggested. "Learn about a different culture each time." Why wait for next year? Jinwoo asked. We could have regular exchange meetings, share stories, foods, ideas. Hejin looked around the hall. Students who once avoided him were now sitting nearby, trying Earth foods and asking about his home. Professor Du Young was explaining Stellarian customs to a group of interested listeners. This is what we dreamed of on Earth, Hejin said quietly to Raina. Not just living together in space, but really understanding each other. It's a good start, Raina agreed. But we're not finished yet. There's still so much to learn about each other. As the event continued into the evening, the hall filled with talking and laughter. Different languages mixed together. Different species sat side by side. It wasn't perfect. Some students still looked uncertain. Some still kept their distance. But it was a beginning. Change, Hojin realized, was like Earth itself. Sometimes it came in big, dramatic moments. But more often, it grew slowly, steadily, one small step at a time. The warning came at midnight. Most students were asleep when the alarms started blaring. This time, it wasn't a drill or a malfunction. A massive solar storm was heading straight for Sunspire Academy. Mirei's voice came over the speakers. All students and staff to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Hejin woke up instantly. He met Raina and Suho in the hallway as they rushed to the main control room. Jinwoo was already there with Professor Du Young and Mirei. The storm is too big, Mirei explained, showing them the scanners. Our shields won't hold against it. How long do we have? Hejin asked. 20 minutes at most. Mirei looked worried. Evacuation ships are too far away. They won't reach us in time. Professor Du Young studied the readings. If the shields fail, we'll lose life support. The radiation will. He stopped, his silver skin pale with fear. Hejin looked at the storm data, then at the Academy systems. An idea formed in his mind. A crazy idea. The Garden Dome, he said suddenly. What about it? Jinwoo asked. When we fixed it, we made it stronger. It has its own power system, its own shields. Hejin turned to Professor Du Young. Could we use it to protect the whole academy? The professor's eyes widened. The garden system isn't strong enough. But what if we connected it to the main shields? Raina jumped in, understanding Hejin's idea. Use its power to strengthen them. It's never been done, Mirei said. The systems weren't built to work together. Then we'll make them work together, Hejin said firmly. Jinwoo, you know Stellarian technology better than anyone. Can you help? Jinwoo nodded. I'll need to rewrite the connection protocols. Fast. Suho, help him. Rina, we need to redirect power from non-essential systems. Professor, can you calculate the shield frequencies we'll need? Everyone moved quickly. There was no time for doubt or fear. They worked together, each using their special skills. Jinwoo's knowledge of Stellarian systems, Hejin's earth training, Raina's quick thinking, Suho's careful attention to detail, and Professor Du Young's deep understanding of academy technology. They needed it all. 10 minutes until the storm hits, Mirei announced. The work was hard. Connecting different systems was tricky and dangerous. One wrong move could make everything fail. Hejin's hands were steady as he helped rewire the main control panel. Jinwoo typed faster than he ever had before. 5 minutes. The protocols are ready, Jinwoo said. But we need more power. Take it from the training rooms, Raina suggested. And the dining hall. Still not enough, Professor Du Young said. We need. Take it from the residential areas, Hejin said. We can survive without comfort systems if the main shields hold. Mirei nodded and started shutting down non-essential systems. The academy grew darker as power was redirected to the shields. 1 minute. Ready? Hejin asked, his hand on the final switch. Everyone nodded. Together, they activated the combined shield system. The The storm hit like a giant wave. The academy shook, lights flickered. For a moment, everything went dark. Then the emergency lights came on. The shields were holding, barely. The garden dome's power merged with the main shields, creating a stronger barrier than either could make alone. "It's working," Suho shouted. "The radiation levels are dropping." They watched the scanners as the worst of the storm passed over them. The academy groaned under the strain, but the shields stayed up. Different technologies from different worlds, working together, kept everyone safe. When the danger finally passed, the control room was quiet. Then Professor Du Young started laughing, a sound of relief and joy. "We did it," he said. "Together, we did it." "Just like the old videos we found," Raina said. "Different species working together in a crisis. That's what humans do best," Jinwoo realized. Not just being strong, but helping others be strong too. Myray made a note on her tablet. "I think," she said with a small smile, "we just wrote a new chapter in Academy history. One about cooperation, not fear." Hejin looked at his friends, Stellarian, human, and others, all tired but happy. This was what Earth had taught him. Real strength wasn't about being powerful alone. It was about making everyone stronger together. A month after the solar storm, Sunspire Academy had changed. The main hall was full again, but this time for a different reason. Professor Du Young stood at the front, ready to give a very special lecture. "Today," he began, "we're changing how we teach about humans at this academy. And to help me explain why, I've asked some students to share their experiences." Heijin sat in the middle of the hall now, not at the back. Rina, Suho, and Jinwoo sat with him. They had all helped prepare this presentation. First, Professor Do Young said, "I need to admit something. I was wrong. For years, I taught that humans were dangerous because they were strong. But I forgot something important. Being strong isn't the same as being dangerous." He showed pictures from the past month. Hejin helping younger students with their studies, humans and Stellarians working together in the Garden Dome, the cultural exchange event, and images from the solar storm crisis. During the storm, Jinwoo spoke up. "We survived because we worked together. Human strength helped us, but not by fighting. It helped us by supporting others." Raina stood up next. "We found old videos showing humans helping during the Great Cosmic Crisis. But now we have our own stories. We've seen for ourselves how humans use their abilities to protect, not harm." Suho shared his story about the training room incident. "I was scared at first," he admitted. "But when the gravity failed, Hejin kept me safe. He showed me that human strength can be gentle." Myray stepped forward with her security report. "Since changing our approach to human students, accidents have gone down. Cooperation has gone up. The Academy is safer not because we feared humans, but because we learned to understand them." Professor Do Young switched to a new presentation screen. "Starting today, our xenobiology classes will teach the whole truth about humans. Yes, they are strong. Yes, they can survive dangerous conditions. But most importantly, they choose to use these abilities to help others." He showed new teaching materials, lessons about human cooperation, their history of solving problems, their ability to work with different species. The old warning signs were gone, replaced by guides for working together. "The Garden Dome project will continue," he announced. "Humans and Stellarians working together made it better than ever. We'll use this model in other parts of the Academy." Hejin looked around the hall. Students who once avoided him now smiled and waved. The fear was gone from their eyes. In its place was something better, respect and friendship. "There's one more thing," Myray said. "The Academy Board has approved a new exchange program. More human students will join us next term. And some of our students will study on Earth." Excited whispers filled the hall. Jinwoo raised his hand. "I've already applied for the Earth program," he said. "I want to learn more about the world that taught Hejin to be both strong and kind." Me too, said Suho. And I'm not scared anymore. I'm excited. Rhina showed the results of her research project. We found that every species has something special to offer. Humans taught us that being different isn't something to fear. It's something to celebrate and share. Professor Do Young smiled. So, to answer the question we started with, should we be afraid of humans? He looked at He-Jin. No, we should learn from them, work with them, and remember that true strength isn't about what you can do alone. It's about how you help others. After the presentation, students gathered in small groups, talking excitedly about the changes. He-Jin felt a tap on his shoulder. It was a young Stellarian student he didn't know. Is it true? The student asked. Can I really study on Earth someday? Of course, He-Jin said warmly. We'll welcome you there, just like I was welcomed here. As he looked around at his friends, Rhina's proud smile, Jinwoo's confident nod, Suho's happy grin, Professor Do Young's peaceful expression, and Mei Rei's approving glance, He-Jin felt at home. The academy had learned an important lesson. Understanding was stronger than fear, friendship was better than suspicion, and together they could face any challenge the galaxy might bring. It wasn't just about humans anymore. It was about all of them, different species learning, growing, and building a better future together. And that was the greatest understanding of all.